Isn't energy a strange thing? It surrounds us, yet it's expensive when it comes through the meter. All the radio stations, all the television programming, it's being broadcasted out is a lot of energy. It's even subsidized because it uses so much energy to broadcast the commercials and the idols over the masses. Right? Energy is used in a lot of different ways. You can give something extra energy if you want it to perform. When you're wanting a soldier to perform, there's been armies, militaries that have given their soldiers methamphetamines or heroin. They didn't really want them smoking cannabis because people weren't willing to fight. They were more calm and peaceful. But when you get somebody jacked up on synthetic uppers, you can get them to do a lot of work. How do you think all these high rises were built? These guys were working long hours under hard conditions to create these things. But then you can take energy and you can deplete one aspect of life of energy by giving it depressants, right? Depressing the energy, deep rest, right? Rest instead of engaging, right? When you're depressed, though, you might be spending money in all sorts of different ways, with therapists and counselors and drugs to be able to cope with your right now moment. All right. And that's the thing with this right now moment. When there's a lot of energy in that right now moment, sometimes it's hard to manage. And so people desire to escape what they're experiencing. And I think that's why we have a drug epidemic. And we have an epidemic of people choosing to exit out of this experience in creative ways epidemic. Children choosing to leave this experience because of what they're experiencing and how the energy is being managed. The energy, right? That's coming from within us when it's not being broadcasted over us. It's harder to find because you have to be in a quiet mind. You have to know that you are capable of all sorts of fantastic things. But some people don't find that spark of energy to get it going on themselves, and so they require a teacher to tell them what book to read. And a fear of failure if you don't pay enough attention. But fear is an energy too. The media, they're broadcasting a lot of fear to the people. And when you're in fear, your body and your mind is in stress, right? It's in stress, and stress is the opposite of ease. So if you're in stress, you're in dis-ease of the mind. If you're in dis-ease of the mind, the ways in which you cope with it can be called, well, it's a coping mechanism, right? And some of these coping mechanisms are alcohol, or consumption of foods, or there's all sorts of things that people use to cope with the right now moment, where they're not comfortable in it. Some of these things, they can cause disease of the body, right? So it's the dis-ease of the mind, the stress, that causes the dis-ease of the body. So if we can eliminate our stress in the right now moment, and stress is rooted in not knowing how to handle something. In the right now moment, if I know that I have control over me, and I know that I can only do that right now, I learn to find acceptance of myself, or in the past, of what I've experienced. I've learned the lessons from what I've experienced. And so then they've happened for me instead of to me. It's empowering when energy is happening for you. Somebody's cheering you on. You feel supported, right? But when it happens, or when you've got the perspective of it happening to you, it can feel defeating. It can feel like something was taken away from you, right? So we are careful in how our energy flows in all of our now moments. And if right now I can only choose what happens with me and how I treat other people, how I engage with my environment, how do I want it to be? For me, I choose health and happiness and peace and abundance. Those are the 4 foundation items that I want to see in my life. And so I breathe in through my nose, filling up my lower diaphragm, up into my chest. I exhale out of my mouth. And I do that as often as I can, because that's oxygenating my body. And if I've got a fire burning within me of energy, and I want to make it even better in the way that I want it, I breathe deep, like a bellows, like for a fire. It's how we manage our energy in our right now moments, is we become aware of the breath. We're aware of how to manage our mind and our emotions and our expression. Because what are you? I see you as a be you, the full expression of consciousness. Even if there's a veiled consciousness and you're operating out of ego, maybe it's not working for you in all ways. Lack of friendships, relationships, quality moments of right now. Because if you're anxious, you're putting your energy in the future where you have no power. You have power right now to shape how the future might look for you, but you can't really control the things of the future right now. Not in certainty. It's just like a boat. You can keep your boat pointed in the direction you want to go, and eventually you'll get there. You'll bump into the dock for long enough that you can step off, right? Even when the wind's really blowing. But if you don't have any hands on the steering wheel, you just might be going in circles. And if you're stressed out and you're just going in circles, you're not going to go anywhere, except eventually you run out of fuel, right? Because every time you go around that loop, it's like time being taken away off of your life clock. We only have so much time here, right? I mean, especially if we don't take care of our bodies and our minds. There's people that are only here for a moment. We just have to look and make sure that we're not in loops of ways of being that we don't really want to be. We have the ability to change it. We have the ability to change how we experience the right now moment. And when we start stacking right now moments consistently in our life in the direction we want to go, we get there. If you're overweight, a little more action, right? And when you reduce your stress, you reduce the cortisol. You're not holding on to things. You're letting them go. And the weight slips away. Right? People are attacking this the wrong way. They're surgically modifying their bodies, or they're taking pills. They're not tackling the issue at the root. When we attack it at the root, we change the fruit. If you're looking at something one way when it's actually another, it could be confusing. But a lot of what we see on television is confusing. A lot of the people, the idols, the actors, they're characterized as normalizing being depressed, living in an apartment, being constantly barraged with drama, being in a city, being highly educated, being stressed out, right? I mean, that's a lot of what we see is constant stress. And we only can recognize it as that when we know what calmness feels like. Nature is what expresses calmness. No stereos, no television, no Wi-Fi, not needing to be anywhere. Calmness. But how many people get that? How often do you have time or the availability to just sit for hours and hours and hours with nothing to do? No stimulus other than what nature is providing. And it's fascinating. It's not boring. You just have to pay a different level of attention. Anyway, there's a lot of ways to manage our energy. And that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. So I hope you gathered something from it. The best way I've learned to manage my energy is through a process I call heavily meditated. I'll leave a link in the comments where you can enjoy a half an hour of guided meditation inspired by the happiest monk I know. Because that's how you learn things, right? You don't ask financial advice from a poor person, and you wouldn't want to find out how to be happy from somebody who's stressed out. So when I needed to find another way, I asked myself, that inner voice. I was like, all right, hey, what's going on here? What I'm doing isn't working. I'm making a lot of money, but I'm really, really stressed out, and I'm not happy. And I keep trying to find my happiness through relationships or alcohol or eating out or vacation or all of these things that are not making me happy, but they cost a lot. And then an image popped in my mind of what I would think like a Buddhist monk or like a Shaolin monk would look like, and how much their life costs. How much is it to live as a monk, right? And then I was thinking, I'm like, wow, they also seem to be happy. I mean, because I've watched enough videos that they just seem to be wise and happy. I was wondering if there's a correlation of the cause and effect, right? I had been using my free will unconsciously, aligned with the culture shaped by idols and television programming, and I was experiencing stress, and it was expensive. And I was always seeking the next bit of where I can find happiness, my adrenaline, or no, my dopamine hit, right? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for these dopamine hits because we're not happy, but at least those can give us some content. It makes waking up tolerable. I still felt like I had to wake up. I had things to do. I had to do things. Now I get to wake up. I get to do things, right? Because we're not always promised this right now moment. Not in this body, anyway. Maybe you can come back as a squirrel, and then I hope you plant a lot of trees, right? Hope you find your nut. But in this moment, I realized that I was doing my life in a way that wasn't healthy, right? So in that, I decided that I was like, wow, I have 2 ears and I have 2 eyes and I have 1 mouth. And if I regurgitate what I already know by talking all the time, then I'm not really learning anything. So I should shut up and listen to the people who know something that I don't. So I started listening a lot. I started paying attention, and it was free. Thanks to YouTube University, I have a doctorate in happiness. I've mastered it. I like my life. I like waking up every day. I like helping others recognize and find the same thing. But so when I was listening to a happy monk, he said, well, meditation. He said meditation is so important that you shouldn't do it for 20 or 30 minutes in the morning or in the evening. He said that's a good start if you wanted to see if you can fall asleep again or get bored, get a sore back. These are things that are going to deter you from meditation if you try too hard. But I've realized that if a person says they can't meditate for 1 second, that's when I need to call them on bullshit. So I show them how to spend 1 second. Be peaceful, be calm, breathe in, breathe out, relax, and ask yourself, how do I want to be right now? If it's happy, you choose to be happy. You find something to be happy about. And you can turn anything into happiness. You know, even a person that maybe you don't like their conversation or the way they are, you're happy when you don't have to see them all the time, right? And if when you do see them, it's a good reminder. And then because the world is a big place, you can just go somewhere else if they don't leave. It's okay. It doesn't always have to go our way. How boring would the world be if everything went your way? And when's it my turn? When is it my turn to get my way? So we share. We share in opportunities. We share in this life experience. And if you really like how you feel right now, just keep doing it. And if you find yourself not liking how you feel right now, breathe in, breathe out, and ask yourself, how do I want to feel right now? If you want to be angry, it's okay. If you want to be sad, it's okay. If you want to be mad, it's okay. If you want to be happy, it's okay. But just know that you're controlling that's how you want to be. Because if you want to feel sad, you're using that as a tool to release something from your life so that it makes space for something else to fill that space. Sometimes for the next best thing to come, the space must be created before it can show up. Life is happening for you, not to you. And with proper energy management, grounding is important for energy management. If you're not grounded, you're absorbing energy and not releasing it. You're working as a capacitor. Once you're touching the ground with your bare feet or your bare hands, you can release that energy that's accumulated in your body. This is scientifically proven. There's documentaries. It's repeatable. This is something to look into, but it's not being shown on television programming. You have to seek it. But some of the best knowledge is that you seek rather than what has been advertised to you.